Hello friends, welcome. Friends, you might have seen this article in the newspapers, various national dailies have carried it, where Vodafone Idea has been quoted saying that they can't operate beyond FY26, means 31st March 2026, and may have to go to NCLT for insolvency. Now, friends, I don't know whether the viewers understand the implication of going to NCLT, and today I am going to talk in this video about how much asset in terms of spectrum which is locked up in NCLT and yet not been resolved, which is very useful asset which could have been leveraged to enhance the quality of service of the consumers in the country. Our government claims that they have done very successful auction and collected huge amount of money, right? You might have seen the government claiming that after each auction that how successful that auction has happened and how much money that they have collected. But do you know that a sizable amount of this money will never get collected because of the deferred payment and the operators have gone bankrupt? So they will never be able to collect those money because many of the operators like RCom, Aircel, they have gone to NCLT and locked up that spectrum. Not only locked up that spectrum, but they have also locked up that money which the government has claimed that they have collected. Right? Similar will be the status for Vodafone. So we have thumped our chest and we have said we have collected so much amount of money. Our options have been so successful, but at the end of the day, the measurement on which the success depends is all in the future, because all our collections in the future, because the collections that we are making after the auction is a very small percentage, and the later part of the auctions, right, the design was such that you gave the operators not to pay anything and everything was deferred. So friends, this hypocrisy which is going around all over in our country, which a lot of claims being made and delivery is very minimal. Today in this video, I am going to point out, going band by band, how much spectrum that we are wasting and how much spectrum will get wasted if Vodafone Idea goes to NCLT. And that's the whole purpose of this video, right? And you will understand that what kind of hypocrisy that we have created among ourselves and what kind of wastage we have created among ourselves, because spectrum is a perishable commodity. Either you use it or lose it, right? So there is no point in sitting on spectrum and saying that I am collecting so much amount of money on spectrum where all your collections are in future and you are seeing that one company or the other is going bankrupt. And therefore, Vodafone Idea will also go bankrupt after FY26 if their AGR issues are not resolved, right? So let's go step by step in this video and you will understand that what kind of wastage that we have created for ourselves. For that, friends, you have to go to my website and I have band by band spectrum for each and every operator listed out. Starting from 700 megahertz band, I'm going to show you that what kind of wastage that we have created. Now, 700 megahertz band is a 45 megahertz band, right? We'll start from 700 because that will be in sequence. So you'll see of 45 megahertz spectrum, the usage by a mobile commercial operator is only 10 megahertz. Rest of the spectrum has been given away to be used by public sector unit. So what is this? This is government. This is railway. This is also given to railway, pink one. So this is 10 megahertz to government, 10 megahertz to railway, another 5 megahertz to railway, and this is BSNL, and you can understand the performance of BSNL. Their 4G network has been deployed and the same spectrum is going to be used for 5G, and neither it will be 4G nor it will be 5G, it will be something in between. Right? And today the quality of service is so poor that people are complaining that, I saw an article or saw a comment in my, YouTube video saying that why the hell BSNL has deployed generators when there is a power cut, their services fail to, operate, right? So this is 700 megahertz. So you can see that out of 45 megahertz, we are only using 10 megahertz. Here Vodafone Idea is not there. Now let's go to 800 megahertz band. Now in 800 megahertz band, you see this red. These are all RGO, right? So RGO is utilizing a sizable portion of the 800 megahertz band. But can you see this violet? These are bankrupt RCom spectrum. right? So if I filter out by RCom, and then and you can see the how much spectrum, because out of 20 megahertz, how much spectrum here is lying waste, lying actually unused. And Assam 5 megahertz, in Delhi 3.5 megahertz, Gujarat 6.25 megahertz, HP 2.5 megahertz, and you can calculate. And not only that, if I add the vacant spectrum, which nobody will use, because this is exactly what the spectrum I wanted BSNL to be given to, in order to have an affordable 4G services, because BSNL would have leveraged on who? RGO's 4G handset, and that would have given BSNL economies of scale of handset devices which are already in the market with lower cost. So you can imagine that this quantum of spectrum is actually lying waste. And these are the spectrum bands which are already being used. You can see that in some of the circle, 50% of the spectrum is lying waste in 800 megahertz band because of RCom in bankruptcy, and because of this pink color spectrum, which I wanted. I have been telling this that please give this to BSNL and resolve RCom quickly. Then you could have a 10 megahertz in many circles for BSNL to deploy 4G, and 700 you can use for 5G. It would have been much better plan for BSNL. So you can see that 50% of the spectrum in many circles are lying unused. It's a complete hopeless situation as per 800 is concerned. Now let me take you through 900 megahertz. It will become very interesting. Now in 900 megahertz, the story for Vodafone starts. Now let me just choose here those operators who are actually in bankruptcy and will be in bankruptcy if Vodafone was to become bankrupt and it had to go to NCLT. So let me choose Vodafone first, and then let me choose RCom first, and the RCom as a next, and then Vodafone unlicensed. Then I'll choose Aircel, and then I'll choose government, and then I choose railways, and I choose then BSNL is fine, Bharti is fine, vacant, right? So you see that how much spectrum is lying waste. If Vodafone were to go back, see this blue color, you see Vodafone, right? This pink color is vacant. This is RCom. This is RCom spectrum. You can see that. And then these are railway spectrum. So you can see here also 900 megahertz in many circles more than, see this is how much? This is 20 megahertz of spectrum starting from 892. No, it is I think 25 megahertz of spectrum. So there are many circles which are 18.4 megahertz of spectrum will actually go complete waste, because this spectrum is get locked up, just like RCom was in NCLT for such a long period of time. Similarly, Vodafone will be in NCLT, and this spectrum will never come out of for any kind of usage, because we love to waste spectrum. This is what we have been doing from past. We raise the price of spectrum to such a level that nobody can buy, and those operators who actually are not that strong, for them the situation becomes very, very difficult. And in the name of level playing, because in the business, if you see, there is nothing called level playing. So whenever you charge 8% license fee for a small operator and a big operator, you charge 8% license fee, then why don't you tell the government to come out with a regulation that you can't have volume discount by the big operator? Because if you really want to do level playing condition, then every dimension of the business has to be level played, right? So this hypocrisy of level playing, we have been talking from the very beginning, because it favors the big operators, and that is why the big operators have been favoring high spectrum price. They may be saying that they want spectrum prices to go down, but as long as these operators survive, Vodafone Idea survive, their situation is a little bit, their situation is a problem, because they can't raise tariff, which I showed you in one of my videos. Best way is to kill everybody and take away all their subscribers. In that way, they can keep on raising their valuation. So this is the 900 megahertz spectrum situation. You can clearly see all this spectrum is kind of going to get waste. Some of them is already wasted, right? Now let's go to the 1800 megahertz band. Right? And you will see how the situation will change in 1800 megahertz band. All this blue you are seeing, they are all Vodafone. Again, I will filter by those operators who are bankrupt and will be bankrupt. So RCom, okay. Then I choose government. Government anyway is not bankrupt, but their spectrum is being very inefficiently used. And then we have got, let's take Aircel, Aircel R, Aircel, and then I'll take VI, and then I take VIU, and I take vacant. right? So most of the operators I've covered. Now you see, this is 75 megahertz from here. You can see the quantum of spectrum that is going to, this whole band, this looks like that is only occupied by either government or vacant or with operators who are actually at NCLT. Can you see this from your friend? This is when you have this kind of picture graphically, then only the story comes out. Otherwise, when you don't look at data, it is a lot, or like it is like no data means you are living in fool's paradise. So we have been living in fool's paradise because nobody is showing us this picture graphically. You know what kind of wastage that we have created for ourselves. So this is what is going to happen. This much amount of spectrum. If you see here, out of 75, more than 50%. More than some places 44.8, in some places 49.8 megahertz of spectrum is going to lie waste. Okay, so this is the 800 megahertz situation. Let's go to 2100, right? And let's look at what is going to happen in 2100. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to choose Vodafone, then I'm going to choose RCom, then I'm going to choose vacant, then I choose government, and then I'm going to choose Aircel. Now look at this. How much spectrum we have in 2100? This from here to here, this is 1920 to 1980. So it is 60 megahertz. Now 60 megahertz spectrum you have in total. And how much you will end up losing? 45 megahertz in AP, 35 megahertz in Assam, and then 45 megahertz in HP. See, 45 to 40 megahertz and in some places 35 megahertz of spectrum out of 60, you are actually losing more than 50% in many circles. 45, 40 megahertz, you can see here. By pausing the video, you can have a look at it, right? So hardly these white spaces are being used and rest will be not used. There are already operators like Aircel, etc. locking, like this violet you see, these are RCom spectrum. This is Aircel there, and then these are vacant spectrum. There will be no takers. And let me tell you, friends, after Vodafone is gone, government has to stop auctioning spectrum because operators are not going to buy any spectrum because they will not need any more spectrum. Because what is the point in buying spectrum? Because the consumers are going to live with poor quality service. They will not need more capacity because there is no point in offering good quality service to the consumers, right? Because there is no way, there will be no alternative. So where the consumer will go? So whatever you give, the consumer will take. Whatever you charge, the consumer will have to pay, right? So that is going to be the 2100. So 2300, the situation is not that bad because here you'll see that this is RGO and this is Bharti and these are blue colors of Vodafone Idea and these are pink color is lying vacant and this is government, right? So this is not a very big issue, 2300. Now 2500 is going to be similar situation because if you see most of the spectrum is government except this blue color which is Vodafone Idea and these are going to get locked. There is nobody else in 2500. And now let's go to 3500. Now 3500, these blue colors are Vodafone Idea and this is vacant is pink and rest of the operators are using their spectrum and this is going to be BSNL. BSNL will be launching 5G here, right? So 3500 is also not a problem and 26 gigahertz band anyway we should not be talking. Now friends, I'm going to show you one more data. People generally do aggregation of spectrum auction price in rupees. I am going to do so in dollars. And once you do it in dollars, then what happens is that you can actually somehow able to incorporate the inflation also, right, in the spectrum pricing. Now, without knowing, what the inflation numbers are, you really cannot do a nominal addition to come out with what kind of impact these auctions have on the operators and the industry health and how much collections have been made and how much collections have been lost. That is what you need to know, right? You need to know the aggregated number. So let's start auction by auction. So in 2010, do you know that we collected $16.76 billion of what spectrum? Forget about BSNL. BSNL, I am not even included here. I'm only including private operators. $16.76 billion we collected in 2010 auction, and that was used to measure the loss of 2G spectrum, 1,76,000 crores, right? Which actually was completely notional and it was Absolutely useless number, right? Which we have been, the public became so euphoric, and therefore the spectrum prices kept rising because of the loss thing. And ultimately, we are now in a huge loss. Everybody has evaporated from the market, and Vodafone Idea will also evaporate. Now, in 2012, we collected 1.76 billion. 2013 we collected 0.62 billion. Then in 2014 it was the renewal auction, so we collected 10.002 billion. Then in 2015 we collected 17.13 billion. 2016 we collected 9.79 billion. 21 we collected 10.53 billion. Right, 2022 we collected 19.09 billion, and 2024 we collected 1.36 billion. Total we collected 90 billion, 87.06 billion. So $90 billion. $90 billion is the worth of our spectrum, which every operator who existed in this universe of India played and contributed to the auction, and a large part of that spectrum value was never collected because everybody became bankrupt because of the deferred payment, except the 2010, which was upfront payment. Therefore, we just collected that, and that became the baseline for calculation of loss and all the euphoria around spectrum auction. And the rules of spectrum auction kept on changing. The funny part is all the rules kept on changing. Still, we kept on saying that the spectrum pricing should reflect the last auction. So when you keep changing rules, when you keep changing payment condition, auction criteria, right, closing rules, definitely these numbers cannot match, because the rules gets changed, the value will also get changed, right? More stringent the rule is, more the value of spectrum will, because everybody is trying to compete in the marketplace. But we keep targeting the spectrum prices of the last auction to come out with the price of the upcoming auction. So this $87 billion of outflow on spectrum auction, what is we have achieved? We have achieved bankrupt operators who are holding our spectrum asset and not allowing us to use it. Classic example is the BSNL case of 800 MHz band. If BSNL was given the 800 MHz band and this RCom spectrum was released along with this pink color, BSNL could have done very easily 4G in 800 MHz band, and the situation would not have been so bad today, because once you do 4G in 700, then uprooting that the 4G base stations and the subscribers from 700 and then doing 5G in 700 is going to be an uphill task, because you can do all kind of uprooting. But what you are going to do with the consumers once they actually have a 5G, 4G service, and then suddenly you change it, and some handset may not have the 5G capability, then what will happen to those customers? Because you can't do that change overnight, right? It will have to be done gradually. So they will have to be kicked out of the BSNL network. So that transition is going to be very, very difficult. So in net, what I am trying to tell you is, friends, that we have done a disservice to ourselves. As a country, we have done disservice. The telecom sector is a live example. I may be hated by some of the people out there of telling the truth, but this is the truth, friends. This is data right in front of you. Why we are wasting so much amount of spectrum and keeping them fallow? What is that we are accomplishing out of that? If you sit and make Vodafone Idea bankrupt and let them go to NCLT, can you imagine the kind of 900 megahertz spectrum, how much spectrum you're going to use? I can just, again, for your sake, you can actually see the map here. See, this is all Vodafone, right? Vodafone Idea, right? Let me just, I'll remove Vodafone Idea. So you can imagine this all blue. Vodafone, how much this 900 is the most useful spectrum band as regards 4G and 5G is concerned for the operators who do not have 700 megahertz band. What is going to be the situation for us? So anyway, friends, I don't want to go further on this. I just wanted to point out to this hypocrisy that our country is facing. Why we are facing this hypocrisy? Because nobody looks at data. Everybody is looking at those newspaper articles which do not give you this holistic picture. Unless you look at the holistic picture, how can you appreciate what is going on? The government is telling us that we have collected so much amount of money, right? $87.06 billion. But nobody is making an account. Now we are trying to convert those debt into equity. That is, now we are losing value because there is no guarantee that you will be able to realize that money, right? Ultimately, that is what's going to happen. So what is the point in even claiming that we have collected $87.06 billion, friends? Do you understand why I am so pained and why I am sarcastic also to some extent in this video, friends? I'm being very honest and upfront, friends. It really pains us as individuals and citizens unless we look at the bigger picture. Right, friends? So we should not let Vodafone Idea die. We should do something about the AGR situation and let Vodafone Idea survive. Whatever mistake has been committed in past has to be unwinded, friends. Otherwise, we are creating a problem for ourselves that our assets will get locked forever. Like what happened in past, RCom, Aircel asset is still locked. We have not been able to resolve it. Vodafone Idea's assets are going to get locked, and we will be running a suboptimal network. We'll never be able to utilize those capacity, which is our natural resources. This is our natural resources. If spectrum, if you are not going to use it, it is going to get expired. It is actually like a perishable resource. Okay, friends, thanks for your time. I hope that you understand the gravity of this situation and hope that everybody will do the right thing and we will not repeat what mistakes that we have committed in past. Thanks for listening till the end. I'll come back with a new video next time on a new topic. Thank you very much.